So this video is a finale to the meditations playlist that I made, talking about Marcus Aurelius's books on developing a very stoic life. And this finale is going to include the concepts of meaning, mortality, and harmony. So right off the bat, we know that to be a stoic is to accept reality as it is. And this is where harmony comes in. Harmony is such an important concept in developing peace and tranquility in life, is because when you harmonize yourself with the people around you, the world around you, the situations around you, there's a natural ease within you that comes to be. And this natural ease is very important. So I'm going to start off with this quote that Marcus Aurelius says. He says, "Think of yourself as dead. You have already lived your life. Now take what is left and live it properly." So this kind of ties into harmony because you realize that you as an individual person will eventually change and die. But the world around you and the relationship with the world around you is going to stay forever. And what I mean by that is that, you know, when you live for yourself on a daily basis, you forget that you're just a temporal human being. You come into the world and you pass away. But when you think of yourself as a integral part of the world, then you see yourself as a piece of a puzzle. Life is no longer about serving yourself, serving the ego. It's only fulfilling your role or duty. And this is where meaning comes in, right? A lot of people have existential crisis. A lot of people have midlife crisis. People don't understand what the meaning of life is. They, endorse things like drugs, alcohol, sex, and it all leaves them into emptiness. And then the opposite happens. Some people intellectualize things. They get into philosophy. They get into very complex ideas in science and research. But even then, they lack meaning because ultimately, there's always something higher than what they have found, or there's always something more to find. The mystery of life never ends. And that's the whole point of life, is that there is no end all be all goal. Instead, what you have to do is, according to Marcus Aurelius, not according to me, according to him, is you have to have a sense of duty in life. Duty, I think of it kind of similar to dharma in Buddhism and Hinduism, where we talk about righteousness. What is your duty as a human being? So he says, this is another quote: "A human being's joy is to do what is proper to a human being, and proper to him is the goodwill to his own kind, disdain of the movements of senses, to distinguish appearances from reality, and to contemplate universal nature and the things that happen in accordance with her." So this is a pretty loaded quote, and I'm going to break it down. Essentially, what he's saying is that when we perform our duties, right? So as a human being, what is your duty? Well, one of the biggest duties is the goodwill to his own kind. So, of course, everyone is like, be kind to others. But what does that actually mean? The goodwill to his own kind essentially means having an intention to to perform your duty as a human being. And people say being nice or being kind is soft, or why would I go out of my way to help someone? That's not really what I am, meant to do. I'm meant to progress on my own and get better on my own. But he says, as a human being, your duty is to uplift people around you, uplift the other humans around you. And once you start doing that, you will find a greater purpose in life. You will realize that actually uplifting others is indirectly uplifting yourself. And I made a whole video on service and talking about how service is actually being selfish. But here, the idea is that, if you're finding a lack of meaning in your life, I recommend having this aspect of duty. What is my duty as a human being? And according to Marcus Aurelius, virtue is one of them. Being a virtuous person just means being honest, being kind, being, having integrity, and, willingness to be disciplined. These things, they all come with virtue. But the idea is that, when you wish for the goodwill of others, you naturally start to align with your true nature. And that's harmony. Going back to this aspect of harmony, is that think about the trees, think about the birds, think about nature, think about water and all the elements. They work with one another to create a harmonious world. None of them says, I am better than the other. The trees don't say, I am better than the river. The birds don't say, I am better than, the worms. It's all integral part. One eats another, one, becomes someone else. It's all interdependent. This is the Buddhist concept of interdependence. And this kind of brings to this next concept of disdain of the movements of senses, and this idea that our senses are designed to take information from the world and create a perception of reality. And when we say we are interdependent with one another, it's no longer just one nervous system in our body. So that, the way the senses work is that, you know, the eyes, the ears, the nose, they all input sensory information. And then the nervous system tells us, in this moment, this is your state of being, which is, you're perceiving this, you're perceiving sweet at the moment, you're perceiving a color at the moment, and then it integrates all those senses into a cohesive understanding of the world. The issue with this is that the senses only give you information about what this person with this senses is getting. But we just talked about harmony, right? We are interdependent with the world around us. So the senses are limiting because they don't give us information about other beings, right? And I'm not saying be mystical and, there's no sense of like mind reading or clairvoyance or anything like that. But the idea is that you limit the movement of the senses and realize that there is a connection. There's like this invisible nervous system that connects this body with all beings around it. In Buddhism, we say all beings, one body. Think of this universe as one big organism. And then us as these small factory workers or cells performing our task, but as a whole, the universe is kind of connected. And that's where, when I talked about duty and meaning, that's where duty and meaning comes in, is that you realize you are just a speck of dust, but you are a very important speck of dust in this world. And if you perform your role in this world as you're meant to do, which is to help others and to develop yourself with the virtue and compassion, then naturally your life becomes easy. Here's a funny quote that he mentions. He says, "The cucumber is bitter, then throw it away. There are briars on the road, then go around them. That is enough. Do not add. Why were such things made in the world?" So he's basically saying have no complaints. The whole idea of Stoicism is acceptance, radical acceptance, right? And so he's basically saying that all things are in the exact place that they are meant to be for the maximum benefit for the maximum people. Essentially, what he's trying to say is that everything that happens in your life happens for a reason. And we just talked about the organism as a whole. The idea is that when you start to narrow your consciousness and think that why is this happening to me, or why am I doing these things, or why mortality is also important. The idea that you're going to die one day, right? You're a changing being. You go through your youth, you go through old age, sickness and death, and then you pass away. Millions of people have died and poof, gone with the wind. So the idea is that eventually all of us are going to pass away. But what matters is, even though we're transient, temporary beings, we have a role to play. And that role is to enhance the well-being of ourselves and the communities we live in. And if you complain about things, you're going the opposite direction, because that's actually not harmonious with things. You're actually saying, I want things to be changed in my way, but not understanding the nature's way. If you can understand how nature works, you will never complain. You will always flow with the stream of nature, of how the world naturally presents itself. Distinguish appearances from reality and contemplate universal nature and the things that happen in accordance with her. So essentially what he's trying to get at here is, you have appearances of how the world is in your mind, but that doesn't really um, kind of align with what the reality actually is. It's just your perception of it, right? So be careful with that and constantly reflect on how you're making biases about the world. Um, at every hour, give your full concentration as a Roman and a man to doing what is in front of you with precise ingenious seriousness, tenderly, willingly, with justice. So I'm going to finish off with this. This is ultimately a quote in his later books. I think between 10 to 12, one of them. And the idea is that he says, "Be a diligent and disciplined man. Work seriously and with a genuine heart, because ultimately, nothing in the world is gonna stay for a long time, including you, including the work that you do. Everything is gonna perish. Everything is gonna go. But why do we still work seriously? I mean, this can lead into nihilism and pessimism, the idea that everything is gonna die one day. So what's the point of trying at all? But Marcus Aurelius actually says it's worth trying, because when you perform your duty and when you're serious about the work you're doing, even a single ant can change the whole world. The idea is that these changes pile up. It's a butterfly effect. This idea that small things start to pile up. Drop by drop, the jar is filled. Whether by good deeds or evil deeds is up to you. So he says, every single individual, if they perform their duty in very serious and diligent manners, the world will naturally progress. And the funny part is, whether you want to do your duty or whether you don't, ultimately it's going to happen through you. Whether through force or whether through your own will is up to you. So, before it gets too late, try to think of yourself as as a human being who is moral and is willing to be harmonious with the nature. Because if you're not harmonious with the nature, I'm sorry, the reality is that the nature is gonna hit you hard. It's just, that's the life, that's the law of karma, and the idea is that you don't really get a choice. And I know a lot of times people want to believe that they have free will, and really we do have a lot of free will. But you have to understand, we are beings that are dependent on the environment. And we always have been. I mean, we can build a shelter around us, we can have friends to protect us, we can have governments and armies, we can have food, but at the end of the day, you're still going to be eating food that comes from the land. You're still going to be breathing air that comes from the trees. You're still going to be walking on the land that is part of the world. There's no escape. You can't be interdependent, or you can't be alone. You always have to be interdependent with the world around you. And so this is where harmony comes in. If you tell yourself that I'm going to do things my way and I'm never going to listen to anyone and I'm not going to even think about how nature works, it's just not going to work. Each moment you're breathing air from nature. Who are you to decide that you are alone and going to do things your own way? You're stupid if you think that there's some sense of, independence in who you are. You're really not. You're connected with everything around you. So it's wise to understand how this connection and this relationship with the world works. And the best way to understand that is by self-reflection. Think of yourself, of you in different situations, and how the things around you have molded you, and how you have molded other people and other situations around you. Ultimately, what you will realize that the most joyous and peaceful moments in your life are when you are selfless, when you are harmonious with the nature, and you mimic natural ways of life. And natural ways of life are essentially intuitive ways, so you have an understanding of those natural ways in your mind. It's just that you have this false sense of ego, and you think that things have to be done according to my way. This is the ultimate teaching of Marcus Aurelius: acceptance. Acceptance can only come when you realize I am in harmony with nature. I no longer have to perform things for myself because nature will take care of me. In fact, I work for nature. I have no boss but the natural universe around me. And if I perform deeds that are harmonious with the natural law, guess what's going to happen? The law is going to start working for you. Ultimately, you will be the master of your own mind and the world. The only thing you have to do is let go of the ego. That wraps up Aurelius's Meditations book. I hope you guys enjoyed the series. We went through a lot of books, and looking back, there are a lot of topics. But if there's one thing to understand from Stoicism, and specifically this book, Meditations, is the idea of self-reflection. Marcus Aurelius always talks about this, is that you reflect on your life and you try to find what works and what doesn't, and allow harmony to take over.